You're listening to She's the Business podcast. How do you create freedom and flexibility in your business? Wow, the $1,000,000 question, right? So this is the question that most entrepreneurs have because it's the reason why the vast majority of us have gone into business is to create freedom in our life, to create flexibility. And usually that's, a feeling of fulfillment, success, and all of those beautiful things. Now, there's really two ways that you can create freedom and flexibility in your business, and I'm spilling the beans on what they are in this episode today. So stay tuned. It's coming right up. Hi, I'm your host, Jessica Osborne, and in my 23 years of business and marketing, I've built many brands to become multi-billion-dollar companies. And just in the last 10 years, I've built 2 online businesses of my own from my dining room table with 2 little babies running around at my feet. I've made it my mission to inspire you to get out of your own way and become the successful business owner who's living the lifestyle you really desire without all the hustle. This is She's the Business podcast, made by women for women. This is your weekly dose of motivation and inspiration. Hey, how are you doing today? So today I really feel like there's a conversation that needs to be had because as always, I keep my finger on the pulse a little bit with what's going on in the online world on social media. I love to just sort of see what people are talking about and what they're saying. And there was a conversation the other day that I felt like, wow, we really need to actually talk about this realistically in terms of freedom and flexibility, creating these two things in your business. And the reason why I think this is so important to talk about is because there was a person saying, hey, we've got to stop selling this dream because it's just not realistic. It's not possible to achieve it. And I thought, wow, that's really interesting. Maybe that's your experience. It is absolutely possible to achieve. It's just not going to happen on day one, probably, but it can absolutely happen within your first year. It is entirely possible. And, let's actually talk about what it takes to create these two things, because what I have seen and noticed and discovered myself as well is that it does not happen by accident. You don't start a business thinking I'm starting a business because I want to have freedom, I want flexibility in my life, and then I'm just going to work hard, hustle hard, get to a certain revenue level or number of years in the game, and then suddenly I'll have these two things. I don't know why, I guess subconsciously we tend to start off with that view that a business brings you freedom and flexibility. It does not. Just having a business doesn't bring you freedom and flexibility. But the way that you design your business absolutely can. So let's talk about that today, because if you're anything like me, you're probably somebody who started a business because those were two things you really, really wanted to have. If you've been following me a while, you'd know that I'm a mum. I've got 2 kids. So if you're a parent as well, you know just how much you need flexibility in your schedule to be able to do the things that you need to do or wish to do as a parent. So whatever that view is on what would make you be winning at parenthood, what are the things that are non-negotiables for you? What are the things that are even maybe nice to haves, but you're like, wow, I'd be really sad if I didn't get to go and watch my daughter in her Easter bonnet parade, like what I did this morning. Maybe you might think, I really want to be able to drop them off and pick them up from school every day. Now, that's not everybody's dream. That's not everybody's desire. So this is really individual to you, isn't it? What is it that you want in your life? What is the parenthood that you want to have? What does that actually look like for you? What are the things that you want to have in it that would make you feel like you're absolutely winning in this game? And of course, nothing to do with parenthood is ever 100% perfect. We all know that. There's nothing about it. Literally, kids are fun, chaotic, change you forever, and there is nothing ever perfect at all because it changes on a daily basis. But there are things that hey, if I can achieve this flexibility, this, have this lifestyle, this is the way that I want to parent. So So you will know what those things are for you. The other reason is that you might actually just want freedom to be able to live your life in the way that you want to live it. And there may be some things that are more personal. Like for myself, I was thinking, well, if I am working for somebody else and I have a job and I've got kids, when am I going to have time to go to the gym and exercise? When am I going to have time to, even go to the supermarket, buy the food, cook dinners, especially if I was prioritizing my children above myself, which we tend to do as parents. It was just getting to this point where I was like, well, I'm going to have to really compromise hard on my sleep. And that, again, is not viable, is it? Like, you can do that in moments, you can do that in very short bursts. But as a long-term strategy, we all know that losing out on your sleep leads you to high stress. And when you're highly stressed, you're just not having a great time as a parent, because those little ones, they're testing you every moment of every day. So imagine all of that. And then, you're running a business as well. That's why we went into business, because we're like, I want to be my own boss. I want to be able to decide when I do things, what days I work, how much I don't work, and the hours even within the day, right? That is the dream. That's sort of what you did. And by the way, congratulations, you have a business, you have that ability. Now, if that's not happening for you, it's not because you were sold a dream that's not realistic or businesses don't enable that. It's purely actually down to choice that you have, choices that you've made in how you've designed your business. Because you can easily design a business that feels just like another job. You might be freelancing, you might have multiple bosses, you might have deadlines all over the place, you might be needing to work more than the 9 to 5 in order to meet those deadlines because of the work you've taken on and the promises that you've made. Now, that's a choice in the way that you are running your business. And yes, there are other ways that you can do it. Now, I want to mention here the elephant in the room, because so many, I think, if you were around definitely 5 years ago, there was just so much about it. And it was this whole passive income thing, like passive income streams. Set up something and it's just going to make money for you and you're not going to have to do anything. There was like this whole rhetoric in the online space. I'm laughing because it's kind of funny how much no one's really talking about that stuff anymore, mainly because there is really no such thing on any level as fully passive income. Like, I'm trying to think of examples where it may be the case. And maybe if you have written a book and it's published and it's a really great seller, it's out there, that is probably passive. If you've recorded a hit song, you're a musician and it's on Spotify and you're getting paid, yes, there's a passive income stream. But the point is, in order to have that, there was a lot of work involved, right? You had to write the hit single, you had to write the book, you had to produce it. And even in this online world, we all have the ability to create digital products that can theoretically be sold passively, but that you do have to create it. You've got to set it up. There's a lot of work that goes into it. And what most people found is that the majority of passive income streams, or so-called passive income, actually take time and effort in the background in order to make them successful and even in order to keep them going. Because what you're doing really in that way is creating a machine that earns you money. You have to create the machine in the first place and the thing that's being sold. But it's not just about having the thing. It's like, how is it being sold? How are you driving people to it? All of that. So there's a whole mechanics behind it. And once it's set up and going, then you might be able to scale right back and do very little. But the point that I'm trying to make, the realism here, is that generally it takes a lot of time and effort to set that up. And a lot of businesses that are kind of touted as passive income really aren't. There's a lot that goes into them. Directories being a classic model, because actually there's a lot of work happening in the background to service those clients that are listing on your site, or to actually make your site something that's successful. So anyway, I'm digressing. I'm going off down the tangent, as I always do. But there was this whole, I guess, view and vision that you could create a business of passive income. That's not the only way to have freedom and flexibility, by the way. You can absolutely have it with a business, even with a one-to-one service offering. And this is where I'd love to really, completely blow that theory right out of the water and say, well, What if you created a business model that gave you freedom, flexibility, and you're still doing a one-to-one service? 100% possible. It's all in the way that you put it together. And I'm going to touch on what I call the two key areas in your strategy that directly create freedom and flexibility for you, or directly or take it away as well. If you haven't built these for flexibility and freedom, then they'll be actually giving you the opposite. So you'll know when I talk about them which one is the place that you might need to focus on. Maybe it's both. That if you don't have what you'd call that freedom and flexibility right now, then this is what you will need to be thinking about in your own business. Now, the other, I guess, key misconception that I see happening out there about freedom and flexibility, really dishing out the home truths today, is this idea that when I make it to, whether it's a certain number in the six-figure range, whether it's $1 million, like this, the put up on a pedestal there. Once I get to that 7 figures, then I will have enough income and I'll be able to create freedom and flexibility in my business. This is kind of like a concept that people tend to hold, mainly because it's like, wow, once I've got that much money, I'll be able to do whatever I want. I'll be able to hire the people. So insert whatever it is that you feel that you need to hire in order to give you the freedom, flexibility. Maybe it's housekeepers, gardeners, cook. You might have visions of a totally different lifestyle from what you're living right now. Maybe it's hiring more team members and in your business so that they can take over doing a lot of the stuff that you're doing right now. And it makes logical sense, that it feels like if you get to that point and you've got all this help, then you'll have the freedom and flexibility. But the fact of the matter is, you can look around right now and you can see people who have 7-figure businesses who do not have freedom and flexibility. So just getting to that level of revenue in your business does not automatically create it, does it? They don't have it. Why don't they have it? Well, for the majority, the ones that don't, it's because they actually haven't built it in. They haven't built it into their business. Before they got to the 7 figures, they got to 7 figures. It's making no difference. Like, they still don't have it because it's not built in. And until they decide to build it in, then it's something that's not easy to achieve. Actually, often adding more team members doesn't make your business more freedom and flexible. It actually just shifts your attention and where you're spending your time and energy into a place where you're doing much more management, much more behind the scenes coaching of your team, directing them, managing them. The time that you're spending is just on different stuff. It's maybe not on the actual the output that you used to do. So it is possible. As I said, it's 100% possible. Yes, outsourcing some things can absolutely free up some of your time. And that's not where you create necessarily the freedom and flexibility. It needs to be created in the business model. If you have it in the business model, then you're able to grow it as you wish and bring in the team members. But really, when I see the people who've nailed freedom and flexibility, we're looking at very, very small teams, very lean, very streamlined and optimized, but they are mostly because they have figured out how to build in that ability to have freedom and flexibility in their business. Maybe they didn't figure it out on day one. They might have at one point done a reshuffle in their business and, cut off some of the pieces of it that were holding them back and streamlined it in. So I'm sure now you're thinking, come on, Jess, get to the point. Let's talk about how you actually create these things in your business so that this is not actually a dream. This is a reality, and you can see how your business can very quickly and easily start to give it to you. You might be watching me on video right now. If you're on YouTube, the recordings here on YouTube, I'm sitting here in a singlet. Why? Because I've been out. It's now 1:15 in the afternoon on a Thursday. Started my day by helping my son out with some homework, dropped the kids at school and stayed there for an hour to watch the Easter bonnet parade for my daughter, because it's the last time that she's going to be in it. She's growing up. Oh my goodness. And next year she'll be too old to participate in the Easter bonnet parade. So I went and spent my time there. I came home and went out for an hour and a half walk. Why? Because I haven't actually been able to get out outdoors to exercise this week because it had been raining, and it's really really something I love to do. I love to get out and just outside and walk in nature. It's so helpful. It's my CEO thinking time, away from the computer, away from the desk and technology. So that was what I did. I came home, had some lunch, sat down, did a little bit of a puzzle because we've got this really difficult puzzle we're trying to help my son with at the moment. And then I sat down to record this episode. So literally sat down for work at 1 p.m. by choice. Why? Because my business allows me to, because I've been able to allow it to prioritize my kids, my health, my mental health, my sanity, and I'm feeling great. This is excellent. Yes, I've got time to do some work this afternoon, and that's exactly how I designed my business to be able to enable me to do that. Now, what it looks like for you might be totally different. You might have different views on when you want to work versus when you don't. And it might be when your kids are at school. It might be when they're at home, and whatever works for you, that's up to you, right? But let's look at the two places that you build in this type of freedom and flexibility. The first one is probably no great surprise here, your offerings, right? So your offerings are the main area that if you are creating your offerings in a way that doesn't give you freedom and flexibility, it's really hard to have it. There is no way to build it into your business except by adjusting the way that you are doing your services, the way that you're offering them. Now, think about it for a minute. Think about the way that you're thinking about your service offerings and what it's requiring of you. Is it tying you down to your desk between certain hours? Is it tying you down for a certain amount of hours? Anything that is requiring you to be on call, there, alert, and doing work at a desk is giving you more restriction. Anything that you've got more flexibility and choice over when you might work, when those hours would be, then that's giving you more flexibility and more freedom. Now, freedom isn't just about time, of course. Freedom is also about income, isn't it? Because, of course, if we get to a certain income level, then we're able to make other choices in our life. We're able to live in a place where you want to live, where you've got somewhere beautiful to go and walk outside, out the front of your house. You can make choices where you might be able to have someone help out with the kids or be able to afford to send them to childcare. You might be able to afford a housekeeper or someone to come in and clean, the bathrooms every couple of weeks, that type of thing. So, your options do expand with that income level, but it doesn't require you to be at a 7-figure range. Absolutely not. And the more important thing I like to look at in an offerings strategy is your profit margin. So yes, we want to look at revenue, but if it's going to take you almost as much in outgoings in order to earn that revenue and your profit margin is small, then it's not really any different from having a much smaller revenue number and still having that same amount of profit, which would be a much higher profit margin. So your profit margin is very, very important. That is where we're looking at what is going to be the cost of me delivering this and what I can have coming in. What are the incomings? Looking at these two numbers and seeing what that balance is really the indicator of the health of your business and how much freedom you're going to be able to have in order to be able to support yourself in other ways and give yourself back some more time. So profit margin, very important. And obviously that comes into how you're building your offers. Now, if you have listened to the podcast for a while, if you've been to any of my free trainings, then you would know that I very much, especially if you're in a one-to-one service model, very much promote that high ticket offers are the fastest and easiest way to get to 6-figure range, 6-figure and above, multiple 6 figures, whatever that is for you, in minimal hours. So we're looking at 20 hours a week or less, because I know for most parents that would be your ideal range. You're probably wanting to be able to spend time with the kids, have time for yourself, work, yes, sleep, all of the important stuff. But, when you've got active kids like I do, they're in primary school still, but we have sports on every afternoon after school. And I've got a couple of mornings before school as well. And to be able to give them that sort of opportunity, then, I need to have a flexible schedule. There's absolutely no way I can work a 9-to-5 job or a 40-hour a week without absolutely compromising on my health. So That to me is non-negotiable, and it may be for you as well. So looking at your offerings, and yes, there are ways, so many ways that you can leverage your offerings. And with one-to-one, what I love to do is to help someone take their one-to-one model and see where the space is to scale it up, to bring it into a higher ticket range without increasing workload. And this could actually be a whole podcast episode on its own. Maybe I'll do one on it. But it is, something that a lot of people believe is as you increase the cost of or the pricing of your service, that it increases your effort and the amount of energy that you have to expend in it at the same or even greater amounts. There's this whole thought out there. I see it very often that people say, well, I can't, doing lower ticket works well for me because it's not as intensive. It's like, well, high ticket doesn't have to be intensive. In fact, a lot of my clients have found really easy to add a high ticket offer in that can be even easier to deliver than some of their lower ticket offerings. So if we have that belief, it just means that you're looking at it through one lens, one end of the microscope. And let's turn it around, look through the other end of, I said microscope, didn't I? I mean telescope. Look through the other end of the telescope. Let's actually broaden that view and see how else you might be able to offer it. So there's so many really easy ways that you can make some adjustments in order to be able to have higher ticket offerings and, not increase the time that you're spending. What happens then? Imagine you're able to have a client coming in at a much more premium level, paying a premium price, and because you need less of them, you're able to reduce the amount of time that you're spending in your business. Incredible, right? It adds up. The math works. Less clients, less time spent in the back end of the business managing them, the same or similar amount of time spent on the delivery, but your income level is so much higher. So that's what I'm looking for, those opportunities in the business model and in the strategy to help you maximize it and focusing in on those, making that your primary focus as opposed to, often I think people get sold on this whole or just sell, a really cheap low ticket offer and then not realizing we've got to sell thousands of them in order to hit these revenue goals. And it's hard to get 1,000 people to say yes, way harder than it is to get 10 people to say yes, right? Even if your offer is amazing, you could have 2 really amazing offers. It's just the maths. Unless you have thousands of people lining up at your door already, then it's going to be a lot harder to get 1,000 people saying yes. And that brings me to the second part of your strategy that can either create or take away your freedom and flexibility. And that is your marketing and sales system. Now, there are many, many, many ways to do marketing. In my 25-ish years since I started my very first marketing job, I've literally done them all. Online, offline, the old direct mail events, PR, the things that fall into communication, high level, top of the funnel stuff, lower level, email, everything. So there are a lot of different ways that you can choose to do marketing and they all work fantastically. But what allows you to have freedom and flexibility is actually the way that you decide which ones you decide to do and the way that you put them together. And of course, in that is how hands-off can you be? How automated can it be? Now, something that will not give you freedom and flexibility is where you have to do it and you've got to do it every time. And it's not something that can be done once, published, and then be set up to work while you're not there. Okay, so what I'm talking about here is where you're making the choice to use a strategy such as cold emailing, cold DMs, outreach. We call it the cold outreach. Even phone calls, people still do the cold phone calls. If you're doing any form of cold outreach, it is a non-leveraged, non-repeatable activity. And so what this means is it takes your time and you have to do it a certain number of times in order to get the yeses. Yes, there's a high rejection rate there, no matter what, how good the strategy is it that you're creating. It is something it has to be done on that basis, one-to-one, really. It's not repeatable. Even though you might be templating your message, you know that the ones that work are not when you're using a template. People can pick a copy-paste email straight away. We're very, very savvy online these days. So that is an example of selecting a marketing sales method that is highly time intensive and very much does not give you freedom and flexibility, because as soon as you stop, then it stops. It stops working. It doesn't work without you, right? There are other types that can work without you. Another one that's interesting, because I think people are doing so much of it, is social media. And for the majority of social media platforms, so I'm talking Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, even Threads as well, is in there. The post is done, it's there in the moment, and it's kind of gone in a day, maybe a couple of days. On Threads, you might still be seeing them, but they're gone very, very quickly. I think LinkedIn, you probably get about a week, maybe, if it's a really good post and people are commenting on it. But even then, it's down in the feed, and the effort that you put into creating it, it's kind of gone. You've got to keep going on this social media wheel, creating. Now, I have ways in which that we can leverage our time better through repurposing and being a lot smarter with our strategy around it. Absolutely, that can absolutely reduce the amount of time that it takes and the effort. So always recommend to do those kind of, have that sort of approach where you're really thinking about how you can leverage your effort to the maximum. But by and large, the social media, it's something that you have to feed. You've got to keep on feeding it. Whereas, there are other types of marketing where you can be creating something and it can live a much longer life and be generating something for you quite passively, such as podcast episodes, such as blogs, that type of content that lives and has visibility for a much longer amount of time. So we're really looking at, what are you choosing? I'm not saying always just do one and not others. You're going to have a mixture in your marketing plan, but be thinking about, are you choosing all methods that are highly time intensive and not non-leveraged, as in you need to keep on feeding that machine or it's going to stop? Or are you, have you got a really good balance of marketing methods and sales methods that are hands-off, that have a little bit of time to create, but then they're going to continue working for you once they're live? That's really, if you're wanting freedom and flexibility in your business, then you need to be focusing on where you can have the most leverage for your time. And that should be where the bulk of your energy is going into. That's what your primary focus would be. I'm going to spend a little bit of time here, create something that's then going to work for me when, while I'm off doing other things. Now, of course, part of this is in not just creating the thing in the first place, but also, understanding how to use the technology that we have at our fingertips, how to set things up so that you have as much automation happening as possible, even in client systems. Like, I love the fact that I've set up my business so that my clients are onboarded. It's all automated. They're getting personalized emails. They're getting things that they specifically need at the time that they need, and it's all automated. Yes, it has taken me time to set this up. Absolutely. But I've designed it that way so that now it's set up. It's fantastic. Things work without me needing to work. Someone can go and book in a discovery call with me. The first thing I have to do is jump on the call. So they can come, they can find it, they can book themselves in, they can give me the information that I need. They have communication with me that happens, and it's all built into a system, but it still feels very personal because of the way that I've done it. And then they're able to jump on the call. I'm there, and once again, it's a very short amount of time. So I've leveraged my time to the point where, I'm doing the things that I need to do and be present for, but not the stuff that is repetitive that can be put into a system and automated. So there we have it. That is really, obviously there's so much more in that. I could go on, and, what I've given you now is a taster of 2 of the 5 areas in my Business Jam program that I help people to really set up and align their strategy to give them the lifestyle, the outcome that they're looking for from their business. What is the income level that you want? What are the hours that you want to be working? What is it that you love and really want to do? Like, what's that fulfillment as well? Well, it's all in the pieces of your strategy that you align. And I've just shared with you 2 of the key ones that really are most directly relating to freedom and flexibility and enabling that in your business. So if you don't have those things right now, then there you go. That's what you need to be starting to look at. Think about how you can do differently. Have you got this aligned so that you're actually going to be achieving the goal that you've set for yourself? It's not hard. It's not difficult to do. It's all about the choices that you're making. So that's it from me today. Thank you so much for tuning in for this solo episode. Always so much to say and share. I really love to, I love to bring the real talk. I love to not paint a picture that it is false or that's only for the few. This is something anybody can do in their business. It's only that we are taking a look at the things that create it. Back in the engine room of your business, the strategy, it's not in the activities that you're doing on the surface level. You'll never be able to, reverse engineer someone's social media plan and discover freedom and flexibility. Like you'll be able to reverse engineer their social media and discover things like engagement or, how people comment and that kind of stuff. But not in terms of the business results. It doesn't come from that surface level activity. It comes from what's happening in the engine room of your business, which is where your core strategy is. There's only a few key pieces of that strategy that, click together. Then they function as a machine that works, and it makes whatever you're doing on the surface level work for you because you've chosen it to align in to actually fit into this machine, right? It's like if you had a machine with round holes and you've over here with something square, well, it's not going to fit into the machine. Therefore, it's not going to work for you. It's not going to give you that result. That's what we're looking for. That's why alignment in your strategy is so important. Otherwise, you don't have a connected strategy. It's not all working together for the same result. We need to just have that focus. It's very simple, but applying that view on why we're making these choices in the strategy and how they are going to help you get that outcome is what we look at doing. So that's really for you just a little bit of an insight into building the strategy, which is what I do inside Business Jam with my clients. I've had some amazing stories. Sorry, I said I was going to go and now I'm keeping on talking, but I love to share because one of my clients, Alexandra, she only had 10 hours, still only has 10 hours that she allocates for her business in a week. That's not much. And, just with a shift in her offering strategy, she was able to create a 300% increase in her revenue and even more in the profit just within a few months, and the few months actually were because she was working through some other pieces of the strategy, connecting it to the offer, and then putting it out there and boom, oh my goodness, this is absolutely possible. So, and imagine that she was able to do that while still working, while still running the business within the 10 hours to make some key shifts and changes in her strategy to completely change the outcome. So, look, if she can do it, she's homeschooling her 2 kids, mum life is going on, just 10 hours in her week to spend on the business and to be able to have that sort of increase, that it's not because of efforting. It's not because she spent more time doing things to have an increase. No, it was actually earning more in the time that she already was allocating. And that was really, I guess, the key point there. So I would like to share that because I love to share that this isn't just something that I have done and, it's possible for me, but not for everyone else. Absolutely not. The people who come in and work with me in Business Jam and go through this framework with me, they get the results when they go through each of the steps. And what that outcome looks like for them, for each of them, it's designing the business that they want with the timing that they want and really how they want it to work in their life. So there is no cookie cutter. This is about, being able to make the choices and the decisions that give you the outcome that you really want. Anyway, that's it from me. I'll be back again next week with a beautiful guest to share a story of their business, some advice, some tips, some strategies, a bit of inspiration as always. And if you've loved this episode, if you are enjoying the podcast, make sure you're subscribed so that it's popping up in your feed and your playlist on your podcast app. So tick that plus button or the subscribe button and make sure you're subscribed to it. I would love to hear from you if you have a few words to say. So drop a 5-star rating on there and, say something about it. Let me know what your review is because I do love to receive reviews. I read every one of them and I will do a call out for you on a future episode when you do that. So thank you. Thanks for your time today. Appreciate you being here and talk soon. Isn't it just so frustrating when you know that out there are so many people that actually need your help and there's many actively looking for somebody just like you? Yet all you seem to attract are the odd tire kicker or really uncommitted client that's kind of dabbling, and they don't light you up. They really don't get great results. And you're thinking, what does it actually take to attract clients who are committed, who are happy to pay proper prices for what it is that I do, and that I can help to have really great results? What is it going to take? Well, it's not in the activity of what you're doing. Here's the thing. It's usually something else that's a bit deeper. And I'm sharing with you what that is in my training. It's called 5 Keys to Premium Paying Clients. And I'm going to share with you what are these 5 things that you need to have in your strategy so that no matter what tactic or activity you choose to do, it actually works. Like, it works. You attract the right clients, the ones who are ready to work with you, the ones who are ready to pay and sign up. So get yourself over to my website now on jessicaosborne.com/TMF. Register for this free class and let's dive right in. So once again, that's jessicaosborne.com/TMF. And the link is below in the show notes as well. I encourage you to register now, allocate just over an hour of your time, maybe up to an hour and a half, so you can take some notes and really reflect on the things that I share with you in this class. And let's change your year this year. Let's make your business actually turn into your dream business together.